Hello everybody, we are in beautiful St Petersburg, very picturesque St Petersburg. We're going to take a walk today. It's a busy tourist day, middle of summer. Can you imagine, look at those clouds. Make sure you bring an umbrella when you come here. That's Moscow station just there. You want to get the fast train to Sapsan to and from Moscow. Of course it costs about 5 times as much as a plane, but nonetheless it's the fashion here. And we'll walk up here and then we'll take a left down Nevsky Avenue. So we're right in the heart of the city here. Just walking away from Galleria, if you want to look on your maps app. Looking away from Galleria. And I'll turn left at this corner. And this is like the busiest street. You can tell it's pretty touristy vibes. We got some tourists around. Many. And as I noted, it's very grey here. People are telling me that there's no summer in St Petersburg. They only have 3 seasons. And it just keeps reverting back to winter most of the time. It's a bit of a shame. Even now it's probably only 20 degrees Celsius, middle of the day. Middle of summer. And often raining. Unfortunately, because it is incredibly beautiful city, and I'll try and show you a lot of the details on the buildings, because what you see is that the buildings start looking the same after a while, right? Because it's all kind of very square and typically European, but the details on the buildings are quite remarkable. So I'll try to highlight some of those for you. It's definitely one of the features. Of course, here there's many beautiful things to see. A lot of tourist attractions, famous tourist attractions. And it's a very impressive city. It's probably, if you're going to come to Russia for a period of time and you're a tourist, dinky-dyed tourist, you're probably going to spend more time here than anywhere else, including Moscow. The old, colloquially termed as babushka dolls. I think the real name is just Metiri, which is the old term for mother that no one uses it anymore. People just say mama and papa. The terms for mother and father have become much less formal. So if you look here, again you can see some of that detail in the building. Not just a blank slate, and there you go. Appears to be 4 women there holding up. Oh wow, it's on a bit of an angle there. I'm not sure if you can see that. Maybe don't walk underneath that one for now. You can see there, incredible detail. This is very typical of the buildings here in St Petersburg. So if you're a first time viewer, that's another example there. I'll just do a bit of a zoom in. I don't want to play around too much, but you can see there the detail and just a random, well it's not random, it's got the Russian flag there. It's probably something of note, but often it'll just be an apartment block looking like that. Oh, very touristy vibes. It kind of reminds me of Oxford Street in London a little bit. Not quite as busy, but same kind of vibe. This is quite a famous Chlebnik, quite a famous coffee slash croissant place. Obviously Chleb is of course means bread. So I assume Chlebnik would be like bread shop or place of bread. It's quite popular. So I live in Belarus, if you're unfamiliar with my channel. And I've just kind of jumped over the border here to check out what's going on. The differences in everything. From people to places to prices. So there's got some bargains there. No. He was kind of charging me. I thought I was going to get a coupon or something. If you say yes to every coupon along this street, you'll end up with 20 coupons for 20 rubles off a coffee. And if you do see some prices around, I should probably tell you that the exchange rate's around 90 rubles for one US dollar. So you can see there's a Big Mac. This would be the quote unquote Big Mac. What's it called? Big shit. So that would be big hit. Big hit burger, not shit. Sorry, I thought it was life. That's the new thing there from 165. So what it's from 165 rubles. So it's our 1.7, 1.8 US dollars. A big hit burger. I'm not sure what the name of McDonald's is here. I'm not a fast food connoisseur, I have to say. But I did notice that Starbucks has been replaced by, almost comically, it's called Stars, and almost with the identical logo. It's like they may as well just kept the Starbucks sign. No one really cares. And what's going to happen is Starbucks going to sue, like, you know. But anyway, they changed it. And yeah, I'm sure you've seen videos about. I'll just put the camera up a little bit here, give you a view of what's happening. So yeah, a lot of tourists around. You can see the different genetics, different styles, a real mix of stuff going on. But at the moment, of course, mainly hearing Russian. A little bit, a few Europeans. We've got something's going on. Oh, there is some kind of summit at the moment, I think, between a few African countries with Russia. I think it's actually here in St Petersburg too, so this is quite probably what's going on here. I think from 4 or 5 different African countries, the foreign ministers they're from, here for some kind of conference or get together. It's kind of interesting. You're seeing, I guess, countries like Russia who are put in the naughty corner from the US. They're kind of getting together and creating alliances at the moment. It's quite interesting to see this. Even with the most unlikely of, I believe North Korea and Russia are looking at some collaborations. Not sure what they're going to do together. But nonetheless, it's interesting to see this evolve. And of course, BRICS is becoming fairly formidable, I would have thought, in terms of global alliances. We're getting close here. People just kind of walking, very New York style. Everyone walks a few seconds before it actually goes green. Because of course you've got the countdown dials here, right? You can see countdown in both green and red. And depending where you are, people start to walk fairly early. But it's not too crazy busy today. Usually the sun kind of goes on this side and you end up with no one there and everyone on this side, but today more of an even spread of foot traffic, so not too busy. Still a little bit busy. I'm used to Minsk, where there's a lot less foot traffic and the major sidewalks are much wider than here. Entrance to a subway there. It's interesting because when you go on the subways, on the escalators on the way down, it must take somewhere in the vicinity of 3 minutes to get down a subway. It's quite crazy. So the entrance at opposing ends of the subway station are a long way apart because you've got that crazy long escalator, which again must be, oh goodness, in time it's several minutes. You're standing on the escalator and you're kind of daydreaming a bit, looking at people watching, check your phone, blah, 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 and you're only a third of the way up the escalator, It's like, oh my goodness. I don't know why they put them so far down there, whether it was a safety thing, whether they're trying to eliminate noise for surrounding neighbourhoods, but yeah, you can see here they've stopped all the cars coming around here. This cop here doing this thing. So no doubt we're going to have the cars coming down with the African delegates here, talking trade and strategical alliances and the like. I think the fairly heavy-handed way that America's dealt with Russia in this situation relative to other comparable situations, I think it's got a few governments spooked. They don't want to be on the receiving end of this kind of these economic ideas. So yeah, including India's an interesting one. They're kind of at the moment what you'd call fairly politically neutral, I'd say, but recognising the need maybe to kind of get off the US dollar train a little bit, just to manage their own sovereign risk in the future. So we are walking westwards. If you check the map, we'll try and get to maybe Hermitage Museum. It's a beautiful, grand building. Oh my goodness. Hermitage Museum, it's gorgeous. Now, I highly recommend going inside for a look. So it's kind of funny, this concept of globalization, because you're looking around and look how people are dressed, and this could be any city in the world. It seems that American consumerism has won the battle for what people wear, for the most part. Certainly in the big cities here. I mean, you could take these clothes off and put them on Americans or any kind of Europeans, or in a lot of countries, really. It's certainly, for me personally, I think it's a fraction sad, actually. Because, part of culture is clothing, and I feel like if this continues in every other part of culture, we're just going to be the same people everywhere. So it looks like we've got something going on here. Looks like these delegates, there's an African dude who's probably filming for his motherland. So I just happened to see this morning. They might tell me to stop filming, we'll see what happens. I'll keep going for now. These guys got pretty sizable guns. I'm not going to argue. If they want me to stop, I'll stop. If they don't, there's someone walking behind me. I'll just, no, he's not going to talk to me. We'll keep going. So it looks like we walked past where the meeting will be, which is very interesting. The security, as you'd imagine. It's such an event, important people, and obviously a relatively unstable environment, although I guess it's always unstable on some level. It being the world. But yeah, globalization is an interesting topic. It can be so handy with things like technology and, let's all pay with our phones and blah, blah, blah. This stuff can be really efficient. But yeah, you can't help but think that with the clothing, with everyone wearing the same Walmart, H&M. I mean, H&M's one of the biggest. It's just everywhere. Zara, Mango. These brands are freaking everywhere, selling the same clothes to everybody. And of course, slowly merging into English language. And of course, the mentality, which is probably the most scary part. Looking the same is kind of lame. All speaking the same language is a bit lame as well. But having the same mentality, it's, oh goodness. It'll be a boring world. So hopefully there's enough globalization to make us all kind of happy with each other and be able to communicate effectively and stuff. But I hope we don't get this kind of excessive globalization where countries and cultures lose their individuality. I think it'd be quite sad, but I mean, clearly we're on that path. This is obvious. I'm surprised no one stopped me filming, to be honest. Yeah, it seems pretty obvious we're on that path of comparable mentality. I mean, even here, you turn on the TV and there's some American-style show, in Russian, obviously, with Russian people, but just the whole content is very predictable and very similar across cultures. Not just like America's Idol or Russia's Idol, or I assume there's a Russia's Idol, but pretty much everything, just the style of it. If I just notice it passively in the background when I'm in a restaurant or something, it's a very familiar feel to whatever's on TV. This is very interesting up here. Lots of detail. Look at all that detail. The side here, a little bit of a zoom in for you guys while we're waiting there. So much detail. Alright, about 30 seconds to go. Let's go to a 1.5 zoom. Oh, this lady's making a run for it. She's not going to wait anymore. Too impatient. Oh, these ladies going to do a runner as well. And with the volume of police around, you'd think you wouldn't. But they still do. The police don't really care that much. They're too busy with other stuff, so probably a well-calculated risk. Alright, we'll cross here. We'll keep going. We must be about a third of the way or so, maybe a bit more. So we'll keep going here. I'll walk in front of that lady's camera. Like a nice and considerate tourist. So there's one river here that we're going to cross over, and then we get to a point where we have a whole lot of landmarks in a row, and we'll finish up there. But it's some really impressive landmarks, I have to say. But yeah, globalization. I hope that we can keep at least some of our uniqueness from country to country, region to region. Otherwise, the world's going to become one boring place. One very boring place. I mean, yeah, what I'm talking about is a long-term trend, obviously. We're not going to wake up in 3 years' time, everyone's the same, but certainly, a lot of young people in various countries, especially in capital cities or larger cities, probably feel they have more in common with other young people from different countries than they do with their own parents or their own community. There's no doubt of this. This seems to be a thing in the world that will only increase, especially now. I mean, this trend was already here, but I mean, the apps such as Instagram and so forth, I mean, this just, TikTok, I mean, this just accelerates this trend like crazy, really. Just the acceleration of globalization with this is remarkable. And even little things like, food delivery apps, ride-sharing apps, this kind of stuff. It's potentially a big improvement on how things were done. Although it does centralise things a lot, which is a bit of a worry. As a general rule, you probably want a fair bit of decentralisation in the way things work. They'll hold up a bit better that way. Can't be corrupted and what have you. You wouldn't want to be, if you do something wrong, if the ride-share app was to get political or something, you do something wrong and it bans you and you can't get a taxi ever again, or this kind of jazz. Which we've seen happen a little bit in the West with political figures getting banned from things like Airbnb and this kind of stuff. Not too much, of course. Not too much this is happening, but it has happened. So there is a precedent. Alright, we'll cross the bridge here. This would be, actually it's probably more than halfway. Told a nice big lie. Losh. Got horses on each corner here. And you definitely see here younger people tend to have a different mentality to their parents. I mean, I've only been in St. Pete in this country, but I can see the difference. That they're closer to the stereotypes of Russians than people were in Belarus. It's very different in Belarus. Well, actually, it depends where you are in Belarus, really. They're definitely more kind of classic Sovietsky culture. The closer you get to the classic Sovietsky countries, Gomel being a good example of that, and a bit more maybe European in some of those parts of Belarus that have been inside of, for example, the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. But we're in a real time of just this kind of hyper normalizing. We're all becoming the same to some extent, but there's still enough difference there, and there's still a lot of difference, let's be honest, but there's enough difference where things are still interesting, which I love. Alright, we've got enough time here. People aren't crossing though, something's going on. People aren't actually crossing even though it's green. The dude there with the whistle says no. Не идет. Сейчас можно. Wow, look at that. Totally empty. This is probably the busiest street you can see, or avenue, of course, of the Via Prospect. I think 8 lanes in total. Totally empty. There must be traffic chaos in surrounding streets. This guy's just had enough. He's walking on the road. I know he's going to cross. The funny thing about Russians, they don't really abide by rules that well. I mean, of course, there's some basic social etiquettes and stuff that people generally follow, as you kind of have in every society. But you definitely see they like to kind of ignore whatever the rules are. I'm sure this is partly in their character, but maybe partly enabled or encouraged from some of the that kind of 90s and noughties era that was a lot wilder than it is now. Just had a great idea. Want to hear my idea? There you go. Potencia. Oh, here we go. This must be something. There we go. There's an African flag of sorts. Very interesting, isn't it? How they really cordoned them off. That's obviously one delegate for one country. I don't know if you guys recognise that flag. I think it was red, green and yellow from the African nations. So it's like some kind of theatre, I guess, is it? It's playing on the 5th, 6th, and 7th of September. Oh, it's a theatre, must be a play of some sort. There you go again. A lot of the architectural detail is considerable. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to be a bit of a rebel here, and I'm actually going to stop walking, and I'll just do a part 2. I'll do a stop start, go with the part 2 to maximise the enjoyment.